And now I'd like to open the meeting to the sharing of testimonies of healing through Christian Science. Shahidat from Maryland, go ahead.
I would like to express my gratitude tonight for all that I've learned as a member of this church. A few weeks back, I came across some notes I had taken from a roundtable around 2012. The topic of that roundtable was the first commandment. And it was mentioned in the roundtable that if anyone is experiencing any fear, then that's in violation of the first commandment. And I had written down in my notes that to experience fear or feel fear was devil worshiping and not obeying the first commandment. So when I found those notes, it made me pause, because at the time I was experiencing fear about a walking ledge near a levee by my home. So the next day, I took my dog and I walked there. I said, we're not devil worshipers. We believe in God, and we had nothing to fear. And we walked that ledge, and there was no fear whatsoever. And since then, we've walked that ledge many, many times. So I just want to say how grateful I am to be a member of this church and to be learning so much about Christian Science. And thank you so much for those readings tonight.
Thank you. Jeremy.
I'm very grateful for how all I am learning about Christian Science is getting me to think more clearly and to love more. A lot has been mentioned during our roundtables about being sure to not malpractice or think wrongly about ourselves or others. I've been working on this a lot, and something happened the other night that made me see how it was really working. I arrived home late in the evening, and about 20 feet from the gate to my driveway was a deer. I drove up and thought, I am not scary, and you are not skittish. I stopped. I got out of my car, and while opening the gate, I spoke to the deer. He looked at me, but didn't run, even when I got back in the car and drove through the gate and got out on the other side to close it. He was still there. I said goodnight to him and then drove down the driveway, thanking God. Every day there's so much that lets me know God is real and true. I'm so thankful for Christian Science, for this church, for practitioner support, and for all I am learning. Thank you.
Thank you. Dale from Virginia, go ahead.
Thank you. Thank you for those very beautiful readings tonight. I'm very grateful tonight for the very effective and loving help of a practitioner in this church. Recently, out of the blue, I developed a very severe and painful back problem. The practitioner was very calm and clear and gave me practical advice, as well as turning me to God and saying to relax in Him. She also gave me a couple of paragraphs from Science and Health to study and work with. It was page 265, lines 23 to 5. The marginal heading of the first paragraph is Blessings from Pain. The second paragraph states, quote, the pains of sense are salutary if they wrench away false pleasurable beliefs and transplant the affections from sense to soul, where the creations of God are good, rejoicing the heart. Such is the sort of science with which truth decapitates error, materiality giving place to man's higher individuality and destiny. End quote. This made me think how false and unreal this whole condition was. It wasn't made by God and could not be any part of His creation, which is only good. This truth obliterated the problem, giving me the opportunity to claim my, quote, higher individuality and destiny, which is the most important part of this healing message. I am very grateful for the clear and insightful and healing work of this practitioner, and for always leading me in the right direction to God. I am very grateful to be a member of this church, for all its blessings, the work that goes out to bless the world. And thank you for this lovely service tonight.
Thank you. This is Bruce. I would like to give my thanks for all of the resources that are available on our website. I find them very helpful. In fact, I visit our website every day to see what's going on over there. And a few days ago, well, I guess I should say it seems like every time I turn on my computer and look at things, there's some disturbing picture there. And one day I realized, I wonder what's on the website that can be helpful with this. And I found this article called Day. It's on our front page, and it's by Mary Baker Eddy. And I want to read just like two little small passages from this article. She says, "Today is my day, and my world is but a reflection of my own mental attitude. I have the power within myself to reverse any destructive thought entering my mental household. I could not lovingly entertain unwelcome visitors. Therefore, I shall not willingly entertain unwelcome thoughts. Each day I shall weed from my mind all thoughts of doubt, fear, malice, hatred, revenge, petty criticism, or superstition of any nature whatsoever, and shall begin today believing tremendously in the power of a constructive mental attitude." Guess what? That did it. No more disturbances. So I found this very helpful. Weed from thoughts the unwelcome thoughts, and believe tremendously in the power of a constructive mental attitude. And that, of course, has its source in Almighty God itself, in the divine mind. And that can do anything and all good, and it certainly helped me that day. Karen from Kansas, go ahead.
Yes, I wanted to give an experience about my daughter, who's not a Christian Scientist, and she has been ill. And I talked to my practitioner about it, and she gave me these calming words. She is God's child. She has the mind of Christ and is getting what she needs. My daughter is doing much better, and I'm so relieved. I'm glad to be here, and thank you for the beautiful readings and the testimonies so far. Thank you.
Thank you. Day from Georgia, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm grateful for the continuous study in this church, which is making me more familiar with the Bible and better able to find inspiration in its passages by applying them to everyday life. I recently thought of the following passage found in Psalm 139, which reads, "Whither shall I go from thy spirit, or whither shall I flee from thy presence? If I ascend up into heaven, thou art there. If I make my bed in hell, behold, thou art there. If I take the wings of the morning and dwell in the uttermost parts of the sea, even there shall thy hand lead me, and thy right hand shall hold me." This is something that I should hold to in the midst of any changes in my life. I've realized how easy it is to become so comfortable in a certain situation or routine that I'm tempted to find security in it. One definition of comfort zone that I found reads, "A place or situation where one feels safe or at ease and without stress." Through Christian Science, I've learned that I live, move, and have my being in God, the all-powerful, ever-present protector. Understanding that no matter what change occurs, no matter where I go or how far, God is always right there, means that I can and must feel safe in Him, as long as I'm doing my best to obey Him. I'm grateful to be able to practice working with this truth for everyone. I'm thankful to have been taught that there is no spot where God is not. Thank you so much for the readings tonight, for all the testimonies so far. I'm very grateful to be here tonight.
Thank you. Sharon.
I would like to express gratitude for a blessing I received a couple years ago. I was invited to go out of town with some members of this church, and it was for refreshment that we could do our work better for God. And after I was asked, I went to my manager and asked for the time off, and she said, "Oh, I'm sorry, but I will be out that week. My mother's getting married in Puerto Rico, and I will be out for the whole week, but you can have the next week off." So I thanked her, and I called the practitioner, and I was very disappointed. Well, the practitioner wasn't disappointed. She said, "The power of a right idea cannot be stopped." Well, this was God's promise. I didn't know how it was going to work out, but I knew this was the truth. Well, a couple weeks later, my manager came to me and she said, "You can have that week off. The wedding was postponed." I mean, only God could have done this. All the details had been made, arrangements for flights, everything. But it was a right idea and God took care of it. I am so grateful to be a member of this church, for a practitioner who always turns me to God and gives me a truth to work with. This is a healing service, and I'm so grateful to be here and grateful for the readings. Thank you.
Thank you. Linda.
Thank you very much for the readings tonight. I would like to express my gratitude for the prayers of my Plainfield practitioner. I'm beginning to live a calmer and steadier, more God-centered life. She is teaching me how to be still and listen to God. This helped me face a situation at work where an individual was using trickery to try to entrap me and others, who made our job very difficult. Her intentions seemed hostile, and she seemed to hold power, and she had used it previously. I turned to this practitioner for support many times throughout this. I was protected at least over a dozen times from her tactics. There seemed to always be a threat of a potential lawsuit that filled the atmosphere. Each time something came about, it was disrupted. And the intensity of the attacks actually lessened over the time until I was eventually lifted out of this situation. These lessons helped me learn to quiet my thought, be confident in God's protection care, to listen to God, practice forgiveness, and to face down my fears. This also helped me grow in understanding of maintaining poise in God. I am very grateful for all that is taught here to help us maintain our poise. I'm also grateful to God, Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, and Christian Science. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike from New York, go ahead.
Thank you. I'm very grateful for the readings, the hymns, and all the testimonies. They have been perfect for me. Recently, I've been working on the belief of a return of a past issue. Working with my Plainfield practitioner and with her guidance, I realize I'm not completely annihilating these beliefs. I tend to work on them, feel better, believe they're gone, but I'm not completely erasing them to nothing with the allness of God. So I've been better at starting sooner when I get the wrong belief, and cleaving to God has been working. I'm grateful because it gives an added focus to keep my thoughts on God rather than let them drift into the old material way of thinking. Today I had a heavy feeling, not as joyful as I should be, so diligently kept working to erase all the negative ideas that wanted to enter into my thought. It ebbed and flowed. I'd feel better and then start to feel negative again. In the early evening, it came to me to take the dog for a walk in the woods to clear the negative things out of my consciousness for once and for all. And things didn't clear, I decided to stop, be still, and listen to God. I stood for a while with my eyes closed, asked God, what do I need to know here? Thy will be done. Trying my best to open my senses to hear God. I didn't hear anything. I finally opened my eyes to see our dog off a distance looking at me inquisitively, like, what are you doing? I figured I could sit down at her level and listen to God just as well. The second I sat down, the dog came running, jumped on me, and started exuberantly licking me all over. Then it was obvious to me that I'm just not accepting the love that God is pouring forth. I'm not accepting all the divine love that is pouring forth from this wonderful Plainfield Church, even though I can't count how many times it's been said to love more. How can I reflect love if I can't accept it? Crawled out from underneath the dog, feeling energized and uplifted. I'm so grateful to God for his two luminaries, Christ Jesus and Mary Baker Eddy, and for his Plainfield Church. I'm also so grateful for our dog who always comes to church with me when I'm home. Thank you so much, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Fairley from Maryland, go ahead.
Thank you. Tonight, I want to express my gratitude, first of all, to Mary Baker Eddy, who discovered and gave us Christian Science here in the United States of America, and to the Plainfield Church and its leaders, my practitioner, for all they are doing to teach and practice Christian Science correctly. Before I found Plainfield, I came to a point in my life when, although I had a reasonably comfortable situation, I became lost, not knowing what life was all about. Then, somewhat by chance, I found Christian Science, having grown up in the Episcopal Church and attending the Episcopal Church. So I read Science and Health after I went into a Christian Science church and recognized there was an answer there. But I was not able to process it sufficiently on my own, and got scant help at the various Christian Science churches I attended, 3 different ones. The true mission of Christian Science I only came to understand at Plainfield, that all people are one in God, and aside from healing one's own life, we watch for the world to pray and reach everyone. Christian Science is the truth, and it indeed has a world mission, which we work for in this church. Thank you so much for the readings tonight. Our security is indeed in God. And thank you for this service. I'm very happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Craig.
Thanks so very much for the readings and the hymns that we had tonight. Maintain your poise, strength in God. The lesson this morning was really allowed me to keep poise today. There's a lot of good going on in this church, and we have a lot of responsibility to just make people feel uplifted and loved, inspired. Well, I had a thought this morning that I was the victim, and I felt disturbed, but it was just a farce. And the lesson talks about glossary, Gethsemane, just patient woe, love, meeting no response but still remaining love. And it just really gave me what I needed to say, well, just keep loving. All is well. Just keep loving, and you will see the clear day. And it did. I had meetings with my coworkers and my boss, And if I had kept thought of myself and my troubles, I'm sure I would have not have been much of a contributor, and probably would have been the victim of a target of criticism. But I was able to keep my thought because of that. Just keep loving and keep working for the world, so that I was useful, and the day went fine. It was so clear in the morning that God is the only mind. His thoughts are good. His feeling was not from him, and so it wasn't mine. And he said back where it came from, destroy itself. So clear all day. It was no longer disturbance. Just the question was just to stand and watch it destroy itself, and it did. Thank God for we get whatever we need here, and I'm sure that the world is blessed because we stand. Thanks.
Thank you. Gary.
Tonight I'm so grateful for Christian Science and for what Mary Baker Eddy has given us. In our textbook there's a statement that says, "The science of mind disposes of all evil." We've heard other statements tonight. Truth decapitates error. There was a teacher in this church that attracted me to this church many years ago, who taught over and over again that truth destroys evil. Truth destroys everything that is untrue. Christian Science is not just another religion. It is the truth about our Maker and our relationship to our Maker. Nothing in the universe is outside of God's law. And that is why, to me, Christian Science is so comforting. As was so well read tonight, it is the source of our poise. God is the source of our poise. Other religions have theories about God, but Christian Science heals by taking us directly to God. God's promises are law. Since joining this church, I have had many, many problems healed through Christian Science treatment, often with the help of a practitioner from this church. Problems of health, problems of relationship, financial problems, character problems. Many, many problems have been healed through the application of the truth of God's laws. And every healing has brought me closer to God and has given me a firmer foundation for life. The fact that truth destroys error is true in mathematics, and it's also true in life. I'm so grateful to Mary Baker Eddy for discovering the science, devoting her life to writing the textbook, for teaching, for healing, for proving the science. And in the face of tremendous opposition, she gave us something that blesses all mankind. I'm grateful for everything I have learned in this church, for the practitioners and the teacher that I have been privileged to work with, that have shared all that they have learned. And I'm so grateful to be here tonight. And I want to thank you, Florence, for those tremendous readings tonight. It's good to be here.
Thank you. Chardell.
Good evening. My gratitude goes out tonight to God, Christ Jesus, Mary Baker Eddy, and the Plainfield Christian Science Church Independent. I am finding that turning to God for guidance and being patient and offering a willing heart to work for Christian Science as demonstrated at Plainfield, many things begin to happen. Often they seem small, but put all together, big things shift and change, and not only with me, but also for my loved ones. Being able to support other workers here brings such joy. Having fellowship with like-minded people brings happiness and contentment. The open and heartfelt kindness expressed here has been helping me to put on the new man. I find myself listening more for God's direction and following through. A small example is doing a job that I thought would be done on another day, but because I had been praying, I did the job early, and the next day, I was free to do something for someone else. Thank you, everyone, for sharing what you have learned here and how you humbly send it out to the world. Thank you for the beautiful music and those wonderful readings. Good evening.
Thank you. Florence from Georgia, go ahead.
I'm so grateful to Mrs. Eddy for bringing the Bible alive, to making us look at the stories as not just stories, but very relevant to our own lives. The Bible stories, these Old Testament battles, I didn't know that I could apply them as my own battles, with battling with fear, anxiety, the sense of lack, and all the other things that come, all the other suggestions, false suggestions that come. Reading these stories has helped me so greatly to see and to learn the lessons of how each battle was accomplished. It is so clear how all these people, these patriarchs, they all turned to God. And they had these qualities, each one of them displayed these qualities: gratitude, humility, absolute reliance on God, and obedience to His direction. I'm so grateful that through the studies here, all that is taught here or has been taught here, I have learned also to look at all the false suggestions that come as my battles, and to know that with God, each one can be overcome, and to learn the qualities, to practice them in my life, so that when anything comes up, I can immediately turn to God, keep my poise, and know that He has the answer, He has the direction. He told each one of these, David, all who turned to Him, He instructed to go against the enemy, face them. And so we have been instructed in science to do the same. So when things come up, we cannot be so fearful and go down before the evil attacks. But with God, we can know that His help is present. It's an ever-present help. And remember the stories, how these people acted, and follow as we have been taught. I am so grateful for everything I have learned in this church, everything that the teacher that was here before taught, and what is being taught right now. I am so grateful to be a part of this holy mission, so grateful for all the testimonies, the music, and happy to be here tonight.
Thank you. Mary.
Tonight I have a note to read from Florida. Dear Plainfield Church, thank you for standing in the light of truth by sharing Mrs. Eddy's teachings and a practical application for daily living. God bless you. And then a couple things from the church website bulletin board. First, Virginia. Many thanks to Elizabeth for those very encouraging readings on the remnant, and to all the testifiers who give much hope to all those who hear their practical and loving application of Christian Science. And Pennsylvania, I too wish to say thank you to Elizabeth for the Wednesday evening readings on the remnant. Quote, "There is a remnant according to the election of grace, and none shall make them afraid." End quote. Thank you very much for those readings tonight on our spiritual poise. I've always loved what you read tonight from retrospection and introspection. The best spiritual type of Christly method for uplifting human thought and imparting divine truth is stationary power, stillness, and strength. And when this spiritual ideal is made our own, it becomes the model for human action. Those three things, stationary power, stillness, and strength. I often think about that if I'm ever feeling pressured or feeling like I need to run around. No, God doesn't work that way. We maintain our stillness and our strength and our stationary power. This is how we listen to God, how we can hear His voice, because we can't hear Him.
Rushing around smartly is no proof of accomplishing much,
as Mrs. Eddy says. In this week's lesson, in James, the book of James, it says, "Be patient, therefore, brethren, unto the coming of the Lord. Behold, the husbandman waiteth for the precious fruit of the earth, and hath long patience for it, until he receive the early and latter rain." A few years ago, we had planted actually many trees and shrubbery and plants in our yard, and I was really anticipating in the spring the beautiful flowering of these plants. And much to my dismay, when spring came, the winter was over. It had been a fairly harsh winter. Not only didn't the plants bloom, they weren't looking too good. And it was upsetting to me. I thought, goodness, well, maybe there's something wrong with these plants. Maybe we need to pull them all up and plant something new. I was expecting some beautiful flowers. And the wise gardener, who had done some of the planting, said that I needed patience, that these plants needed to get established, that their roots had to grow deep, and just to wait, and let God work, let the rain and the sun, as this verse says, do its job. And so I did, and the first season didn't look so good, but the second season looked much better. The third season even looked really good. Things began blooming and blossoming, and I really had to chastise myself for my impatience. How awful it would have been if I had ripped those beautiful plants up and because of my own impatience, when they needed just some time to grow. Now, we can certainly apply this to our lives. If we get impatient with maybe someone that we think should be turning to the truth and maybe isn't doing it on our time schedule, well, we need to let God work. We need to have that patience to be that example of stationary power, stillness, and strength. And let that person grow at its own pace. Sometimes impatience can ruin what God is working on. Or perhaps you are impatient because your healing hasn't come when you feel it should. Well, maybe there are more lessons to learn. Certainly there are. There are always lessons to learn. As was given tonight about the blessings from pain. That seems like a hard lesson, but there are always blessings. And we must accept how God works in our life and embrace these experiences and know that their purpose is to get us closer to God. So we continue on with patience, patience with ourselves. We don't get frustrated because we don't understand the whole textbook all at once. No, patience. Each day you learn more, and as you learn more, you can demonstrate more. Such an important quality to have this patience. Many things can be ruin prematurely when we don't wait on the Father and let His unfoldment come to pass. So I'm very grateful for this lesson this week. Beautiful lesson, for those beautiful readings. Such a beautiful prelude tonight, and also the hymns and the healing testimonies. I thank you all. And I thank dear Mrs. Eddy for giving us Christian Science.
Thank you.